voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Hello, Trekkies, and welcome to the landing party. I am your captain, and the captain's log today is 2405.01. We're going to be talking about an excellent first season episode, The Naked Time. This is the first script by John D.F. Black, and it's directed by Mark Daniels, who returns, first guy to do 2 in a row, actually, because he did the previous episode, The Man Trap. 2 months into the show, John Black was already becoming increasingly bothered watching Roddenberry rework scripts by renowned writers such as Jerry Soule, Richard Matheson, and George Clayton Johnson. He didn't expect the same for him. However, as we talked about, Roddenberry was constantly tinkering with scripts. So Roddenberry did rewrites on Black's first draft, not giving Black a chance to make the corrections himself. This pissed him off because not only was it disrespectful to him, but it also went against the Writers Guild rules. Typically, they do an outline, then a first draft, a second draft, and polishes. They're allowed that freedom to get it right. It's that come in. Black, was no wilting flower, so he confronted Roddenberry. And he said to him, "For God's sake, Gene, I can maybe understand it for someone who doesn't know the show, but I'm the story executive. I work here. I know the show, and I know the show." This was the beginning of the end of their relationship and Black's tenure on Star Trek. He didn't make it past the first season. In fact, we'll get to it, but I believe he leaves before the first season is even over. Now, in Roddenberry's defense, he felt that, quote, there was a lot of change in that one, meaning this particular script, that this episode was going to lock in many character traits that would then come back in other episodes. And you have to take extra care with a story like that. These types of shows are going to be more important to the overall series because of what they will tell us about our people, our primary characters. So you have to get it right, quote unquote. But who knew the characters better than him? This was still a work in progress. There really was no Bible yet. And the writers were working, with not a lot of direction as far as the characters yet. That hadn't been locked in. So I can see what Roddenberry is saying here. He knew Captain Kirk. He knew Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy and all these other characters, some of whom haven't, that they're still reworking. We talked about last week, Spock was pretty much on point, showing just bits of exasperation. In this one, I think he's dead on. So I think they finally got Spock right. Black ignored Roddenberry's rewrites and did a second draft and a polish to the script as per the Writers Guild's rules. And it's at this point Roddenberry put his imprint on the finished product. Neither Black nor Clayton Johnson, who had done The Man Trap, were fans of Gene's dialogue, saying it was ham-fisted and dumb. There's some, that opening sequence where Spock says that melodramatic, it's not like anything we've ever faced before. When Sulu grabs Uhura and she says, "Thanks and neither," I think that's what she says. Which is very odd, and both those things kind of jump out at you. Those were Roddenberry dialogue additions. But some of Roddenberry's contributions were for the better, and I see this a lot in his rewrites. That some of the things that we think of most from these episodes actually did come from Roddenberry. In this case, it's Spock's breakdown. It was reworked, as well as his confrontation with Kirk in the not the ready room, but wherever they have those meetings, the meeting room, whatever. And that's really powerful when he strikes the captain, and we actually see Spock has, greater strength than a human being for the first time. But this is also where Kirk, he's already under the influence of this disease, and he looks around and he says, "I'll never leave you, never," and he also professes his love for the ship. All made the story more powerful. The Naked Time was originally intended as a 2-part episode. The story would have been part 1 as we had seen it here, and part 2 was to deal with the Enterprise traveling back in time. We see it going through the time warp, but they resolve it here. A treatment for the second season sequel, because they were going to do a sequel to it, was written and shelved for 20 years, and then they eventually resurrected it for the Next Generation episode, The Naked Now. It wasn't meant to be, for whatever reason they couldn't do it as a 2-parter or do a second season sequel to it. But it did become the springboard for the upcoming later in the first season, Tomorrow is Yesterday story, where and they eventually used the intermix formula that they discovered in this episode in season 2's Assignment Earth. First appearances. This is the first appearance of Nurse Christine Chapel, and I didn't realize it until I said it out loud recently that her name. This was Roddenberry's lover, and he gives her a name that sounds like the Sistine Chapel. Nurse Christine Chapel, like as if she's like angelic, and I'm sure that was no accident. This episode, along with the Corbomite maneuver, were nominated for the prestigious Hugo Award in 1967. So the science fiction community realized this was a good one. Let's see what the rest of the landing party thinks about this particular episode. First, we're going to have a man that's come all the way from Cestus 4, Aaron Lepresti.
Greetings.
Good journey.
It was a little bumpy, a little asteroid field here and there, some nebula gas and things like that can upset.
Did you run into any Gorn on the way?
No, thankfully. There was some Telosians, but that's only because I watched the wrong episode last night. But I was able to navigate through that, and I'm right on schedule now for the Naked Time. So.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And we're going to bring in our long-lost landing party member, Mr. Ron Garney.
There he is.
What's up? Lost. I found you at home.
We missed you last week.
We did. It's great to see you back.
And I missed you.
Well, Ron, you're in a rock band.
Like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz.
How is this for the name of a rock band? I always thought like in that teaser for Arena where Kirk gets on the thing on the horn and goes, Cestus 4 has been destroyed. What do you think? Is that a cool rock band name? Cestus 4 has been destroyed.
Well, it leads you down the road to think incestuous 4.
Okay.
Well, there you go. It's
maybe not. Maybe
that rock and roll mindset.
This is why I'm not in a band.
Rock and roll and incest goes hand in
hand. What can you do?
So first off, what do you guys think about this episode?
I liked it. It had one of the things that we see occasionally in Star Trek episodes, and for my taste, not enough, where you get past one problem, and then just when you think, okay, this is resolved, you get a little bit more of a problem at the end that has to be resolved. In this case, the time warp thing, which kind of keeps you on the edge of the seat right till the very last minute of the show, which I kind of enjoyed. But I like Kevin Riley. I like his character. I wish he'd been in more episodes. He was in a few.
Yeah.
But then just sort of mysteriously disappeared. And I thought this had some humorous moments in it for the wrong reasons, but but it played off nicely the kind of high intensity drama that was going on throughout, when Riley was in there, singing
Yeah.
and talking about having ice cream and all that kind of stuff. So it had some nice bits. And you said, you talked about earlier in the intro, the whole Kirk bit, when he's fighting off the disease and he loves his ship and all that kind of stuff. There was nice bits between him and Spock there. So there's a lot of good stuff in this episode.
Ron?
Which episode are we talking about?
The Naked Time.
That's the one where
they get the stuff on their hands.
They get
and
the
they go
stuff
nuts.
on their hands. Yeah. Take me home again, Kathleen.
Yeah. Now I remember. Okay, yeah. Wow, it's been so long since I've actually watched that one.
Somebody didn't do their homework.
Yeah, like I have time for that.
Come on, fake your way through it, Ron.
Yeah, I remember all that now that you mention it. But I get confused with the with Riley and the engineering with the CODIS, the executioner one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Conscience of the King.
Yeah, so I'm always mix those two up. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember how did that happen? They were down on a planet and they got
well. Herein lies a major plot point.
Yeah.
Okay.
He took his glove off.
They go down to this planet and they're wearing environmental suits that aren't sealed.
Right.
You can the guy can reach up and
the guy's like frozen, like
yeah,
Prometheus or whatever.
Yeah. And Joe Tomorlin or whatever his name is, character, takes off his glove to scratch his nose. He's in a hostile environment and they don't know what's going on. And he takes off his glove. And the actor said to the director,
I'm picking it.
Yeah. The actor said to the director, "Why do I take my glove off? I mean, wouldn't that be a bad thing?" And he goes, "If you don't take your glove off, we don't have an episode."
That really happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the only one with common sense.
Yeah.
Do something so stupid on an alien.
Well, you would think, why couldn't they have him actually tear his uniform?
That would have made more sense.
Right.
He has an accident where he, maybe he could just trip over a table or something.
Trips over one of the frozen bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something.
Yeah. That was sort of a leap in logic.
I do remember. I remember when they showed the hand, and you saw the thing. They animated it where fingers, kind of like something out of The Thing,
Yeah, that was very creepy. I thought.
That sticks out in my head, that moment, because it seemed so alive. This.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This infection.
Yeah. Another kind of a plot thing, which because don't get me wrong, I think this is a really solid, really good episode for a lot of reasons we'll go into, but that taking off his glove for one, and then when Riley locks himself in engineering and Scotty has got to get these blueprints out to carefully cut out this area on the bulkhead. I mean, what the hell do you have running inside an inside wall on this spaceship that's so dangerous you have to have a safety margin? You should be able to blow the whole fucking wall out. I mean, what is running along back there? He says, I can't go any faster without a, keeping a safety margin. And Spock's
the funny thing is they're cutting through actually, a set piece made out of plasterboard or something.
Well,
the starship.
Well, that. I mean, come on.
Since we're ripping
that's not the one. What's the one where Scotty's got the phaser and he's cutting the square? Is that the one?
That's it.
That's the one.
I always thought that was so cool. Like seeing the phaser just, the way they made it look like a torch kind of cutting through.
Yeah.
There.
Well, it's funny on some of these. It's almost in some ways like reading a 20-page comic, right? You let some of these things go during the episode and you just go with it. And it's not till you start thinking about it going, what the heck was in that bulkhead anyway that he couldn't cut through, or, what's his face? The guy who was dumb enough to take his glove off down on the planet.
Well, I mean, I would think infrastructure of any kind in any kind of ship or in our house, for instance, I can't just cut through a wall and then accidentally hit a water pipe or something. You know what I mean? You have to be cognizant.
Yes, but if you're spiraling into the planet. If you busted a water pipe, that'd be okay, wouldn't it?
If your house is spiraling into the planet.
Yeah.
At that point, you're not
Yeah,
worried.
but I mean, that's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. I mean, you're spiraling towards the planet, but why would you expedite it by cutting something into something that's going to destroy the ship anyway? I would think they would have enough plans for the ship, and they would know what every bulkhead has underneath it. So.
Well, yeah. But we were talking about an episode where a guy got stabbed with a butter knife too. So it's
Anna is sick, huh?
Yeah. That's why she's not on tonight. Yeah. So best wishes to our partner Anna, and hope she feels better.
She's probably rolling around in her bed with peaches.
Ron's not literally
painted green.
That's her husband.
Hopefully, there's not a butter knife nearby.
Right. Well, why the butter knife? I mean, why did they just give him why wasn't he eating some steak or something?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. No, Madaman, this cracks me up. He says, I got to watch this on replay. I watched Charlie X on accident. That's exactly what I did last night. I watched Charlie X because I was thinking we were doing Charlie X instead of this one, but thankfully,
Charlie X.
How are you guys? I have that whole remastered DVD set. How do you guys watch them?
Well, I've got that too, but it's also on one of the streaming services we have.
It's on Paramount.
Paramount has them, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also on.
I refuse to pay for it again. I'm not paying.
Oh yeah, I've got it on Vudu.
It's like the
too.
Star Wars thing,
I've uploaded them all on Vudu, so I just can watch them there. And the books that I have tell you the shooting order, so that's why the DVDs are in the actual order that they came out in. And we're doing it in the shooting order. So
I should have checked my books, but I, for some reason, had it in my mind. Oh, it's Charlie X, of course. And
that's all right. That's all right. No,
I can tell you all about Charlie X,
and we will next week.
Yeah. So they're spiraling towards the planet. And how do they get out of this again? I'm trying to remember.
Well, Riley, he, in his drunken state, commandeers the engineering, and he's fucking around with all the buttons, and he shuts the engines down. Completely shut them off, and
it's just a button.
Yeah. Well, he's punching a bunch of buttons, but he ends up shutting off the engines. And they get in there in time, but Scotty then tells them we need 45 minutes to energize them, and they got 8 minutes before they crash into the planet.
That's a great scene, and the camera moves in on Kirk.
Yeah. I mean, the drama and ramping up of tension in this is really excellent. Because every time you think something happens, they've got it resolved, they pile more on.
Yeah.
And so then he has to get this intermix formula from Spock, but he's compromised by the disease.
How great if they talk about piling it on? How great would it have been if right during those moments, Spock goes into, what was it, Pon Far or whatever? He gets extremely horny.
I got to get to Vulcan. You go, we got to get out of this first,
pal. I need you to take me back to Vulcan, Captain. I got to get laid. Spock, we're crashing into the planet. I need you to go.
Kirk's like, is there any way I can help you out with this?
Can we resolve this in 2 minutes? Because we only got 8 left.
Come into my quarters fast. Captain, I'm okay. I'm okay.
You go, now that I think about it, I'm feeling pretty good now.
Yeah, I'll be all right, Captain.
Thanks for the offer.
We get to see the first appearance of Christine Chapel here, and they're already setting her up with having some type of a crush on Spock right from her first appearance, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, yeah, exactly.
They tried to do that with Uhura, in the earlier episodes, and I think they just gave it up and they just said, okay.
Is that where they came up with? Well, it makes sense with this fucking, this climate of culture we live in at this point, but with the Star Trek movies where Uhura got it, was getting it on with Spock.
Yeah, in the modern J.J. Abrams ones.
Yeah. Is that so they got it from that?
Yeah. Yeah, they got it from that the episode we just did.
You
Can't
know,
remember what it's called.
what's interesting is, and again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but since I did watch next week's episode already, I did notice this, that they're still playing in Charlie X. They're still playing up the Uhura Spock flirting thing.
Where exactly? I don't recall any moment in my head where they actually flirted.
In Man Trap, when Spock is sitting in the captain's chair because he's down on the planet, and the transporter chief notifies the bridge that the landing party has beamed up with one body, and Spock says acknowledged. And prior to that, Uhura had come down to him, was talking about, if I hear one more communications thing, I think I'll lose my mind, type of thing. And he says, well, that's illogical for a communications officer to not want to hear that word. And she says, well, why don't you tell me something like I have beautiful eyes, or what the moon is like on Vulcan, or on your planet. They don't even say Vulcan yet. And then Spock, he's doing this with the collar, and
then Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, it's exactly what he's doing,
Uhura's hitting on me. Oh.
and then she says, he says, Vulcan has no moons, and she says, I'm not surprised. And that's when the call comes in and says there's a body, and then she turns on him and says, I don't understand you. And he says, explain. He says that could be, Captain Kirk that's dead, down there. And he's the closest thing you have to a friend.
I kind of remember. It's been, again, I have to rewatch a couple of these.
Yeah.
And now I remember that.
Well, and
I don't know if I ever thought of it as flirting, I guess.
Well, but she's kind of coy. She's kind of sitting there with her hands on the desk,
gazing up at him.
Yeah. She's definitely,
I remember a scene where it cuts to Spock in the captain's chair, and then you see his head come up. But maybe I just misremembering.
That was the Enterprise incident.
Maybe you were projecting.
Yeah. Come on now, Graham. You thought of it.
I drew one of those scenes in high school in my notebook.
In the Charlie X episode, when they're in the the rec room and Spock's playing his harp and she starts singing a song to Spock, kind of messing with him. Oh
yeah, right.
And Dennis Rand is sitting there kind of egging her on, and then Charlie comes in and she switches the song to Charlie X, and then he makes her voice go away. But so she's like flirting with him in that episode too, and Nurse Chapel isn't in Charlie X. So it's interesting that this was actually filmed before Charlie X, because it feels like Charlie X was shot before.
I think again, we have to go back to that sweetheart deal that Uhura got, that Nichelle Nichols got, where she was getting $1,000 an episode. So when she was in, certain other characters who hadn't been locked in as regular characters yet couldn't be in because
they couldn't afford to have both of them there.
Yeah.
They should have had Chapel and Uhura fight it out over Spock in a big mud pit down in the
on Vulcan on the Ponfar episode.
Should have been in Triskelion,
Yeah.
put bets on them.
That's right. 20 quatludes on the newcomer.
Quatludes. not Quaaludes.
The brains are just getting fried down there. Yeah. 20 Quaaludes.
All because the universal translator wasn't working properly.
Let's beam down those Quaaludes.
Those three brains are all like,
we need 20 quadludes worth of Quaaludes.
I want 30 more Quaaludes.
Now all of a sudden, instead of sounding so erudite, they're like, hey, man.
The whole planet's just rocking back and forth because the brains are losing control, And
that's like just your opinion, man.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's funny. Great, some great scenes in this episode. Like we said, where everybody's going off when they catch it. It's like they're all drunk, and it's bringing out all these inner qualities in them. and like George Takei wanted to have a say about his character, and because they were going to originally have him have a samurai sword and be a samurai warrior, and he's like, well, Sulu is American, he's Asian, but he's he wouldn't have a samurai sword. Maybe he was he loved Errol Flynn movies or something like that, just like every other American kid. So that's why they gave him the fencing rapier and all that kind of stuff. But his scene was really cool, where he was running around, scaring people. And I really like the scene with Kirk where he loses his shit and really, expresses his love for and his fear of losing the Enterprise, No,
I love you, my ship.
Yeah.
Well, we had Spock was crying and laughing, wasn't he? In that,
yeah. Yeah, and he tries to do mathematical equations to get himself refocused. That was kind of cool too. And Nimoy said that this is the episode where he really nailed who Spock was. He wasn't a man who had no emotions. He was a man who kept his emotions in check, and sometimes they would come out. And that's how he went on to play the character from then on. It really gave him something to go with.
Yeah.
Well, it's the entire species did. It wasn't just him. I mean, because they were such savages at one time. The only thing that saved them was logic.
Right, but that was never established yet. I mean, that came later, much later on. About that stuff.
Yeah. And he's like one of the few ones, I'm sure, that was half human, so he was dealing with that half, where the regular Vulcans wouldn't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
So
all these, I don't know if you guys ever seen any of these modern ones that are showing on Paramount, like what's that one? The newest one, Boldly Go, or it's got Christopher Pike.
Yeah. I can't bring myself to watch them.
They're horrible.
I can't either.
It's like, because honestly,
fans are writing.
Why? Fans. Do I have to explain why? We all know why. Because it's
all know why.
maddening. It's like every other fucking scene. It's like,
oh yeah, but the characters are so off model. I mean, Spock has got so much emotions. He's banging.
They don't resemble. I know.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's fan fiction for fans.
It's like trying to revive a corpse. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just too weird to see them played by anyone else.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
I thought the Abrams thing. Sorry, Aaron, but I do think the Abrams thing of the first Star Trek was well done. I thought it was pretty well cast. I thought, Spock. They rewired it a little bit, like Spock's character, but overall, I thought they got it pretty good. I mean, I guess there were a lot I didn't like about it, but if they were gonna try to recreate it at all, I think he did the best job as far as the casting was concerned.
Yeah, but they didn't get the characters right. I mean, the idea
that's what I mean. They rewired
completely off. I mean, first off,
it's too much of a
meet him when he's a kid, right? He's made him as a kid, and he's stolen a car, so he's kind of a pain in the ass, right? And he goes off a cliff in Iowa. Where the hell is there a cliff in Iowa that looks like
Grand Canyon? Yeah.
Well, it's the future. You never know what happened.
Yeah, that's right. They were mining there for dilithium crystals.
I
agree. He lacked
all the electric batteries that we're making now.
He didn't have the mature swagger and wisdom of the original. I can't even talk about the fucking actor now. But
fine. Well, I thought I gave him some leeway in that one simply because it was an alternative universe where Kirk's dad had died and he grew up fatherless, and so he's going to be more of a. But I still didn't like, even as an adult Kirk, that he was so glib and so the whole bit with the Kobayashi Maru where he's eating the apple, it drove me nuts.
Yeah,
it was like he should care about it. Yeah, he was like he should care more about what he's doing and why he's there.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I agree with you, but that is not to say that Shatner's Kirk, that version, might not have gone through that metamorphosis because I don't know if you remember the shore leave episode with
Yeah.
Finnegan.
Finnegan.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you see the way the sort of collegiate sort of frat boy attitude going on there, and then fighting and stuff. So you can sort of see that in him as a young man who hasn't been wizened and by all of these things he's had to get through. Whereas, but I do agree that I think they extended it too far into the movies.
Well, I would argue that point because in Where No Man Goes has gone before, Gary Mitchell talks about Kirk at the academy. He was he was a ramrod straight student.
Oh,
You
yeah.
sink or swim. And
Whereas Gary Lockwood would be more like the movie version of Kirk.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, Gary Mitchell would have been the
That's a good-
yeah. And also when we
But
hear
then,
about
it's like and Finnegan.
Finnegan was a bully. He
Opposite
bullied
was
him.
was bullying him. Yeah.
Yeah, because Kirk was the studious guy, and this guy was like Mr. Party Boy. Come on, Jimmy boy, let's go. You took me Lucky Charms, Jimmy. Let's go.
How many hours did you stand in front of a mirror imitating Finnegan?
Every St. Patrick's Day, buddy.
Could never get the accent.
He's like,
Well, I'm Irish, so
There you go.
Hey.
whatever you want me to be, Jimmy.
yeah,
It's like, whatever you want me.
that's such a great scene.
Their shirts are all torn up and they're beating
Yeah.
us.
So it was satisfying, right? Because you wanted Kirk to get a little revenge on this guy, and he finally did.
Yeah. I got a few super chats I just want to address here. Sisters of Bacon for $5. Stab me with a butter knife. What a disappointing episode. Not so much as a single green titty. They even showered fully clothed.
Well, at least on the planet they did.
Well, he's not wrong, people.
No, he's not.
And Stealth X5, $2 says, hello, Stealth X. Sisters of Bacon again for $2. The suit wasn't even sealed. Yeah, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leg Kick 1 for $5. Aaron, aren't you going to bring up your Star Trek episode?
What's her name? Belle Winters on Twitter did a Star Trek parody, Next Gen parody, and I ended up with a supporting role where they basically took AI in our faces and put them on the characters, and then used AI to create new voices to do the new dialogue over the top of it. It's like a 12-minute episode.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's freaking amazing.
It scared the crap out of me though, because I thought 10 years from now or 5 years when they got this perfected, we're not going to be able to believe anything.
Wait.
Or hear.
Back up. What is this?
This gal took.
Who's the gal?
Well, she goes by Belle Winters. I don't know what her real name is, but on Twitter, that's her handle. And she created this AI Star Trek episode. So they basically took an episode of parts of the episode. It was only like 10 minutes long, but they took parts of the episode of Next Gen, and they AI'd my face on Ronnie Cox's body, who was the guest star captain in that episode.
Your face?
Yeah, and my voice. They used the AI representation of my voice, which was pretty good.
Why did they do that with you?
Just for
you obviously know them.
Well, it's all part of this Comics Gate thing, where the people that are, part of this group or this association, they take people that they know, they see us YouTubing and live streaming and stuff like that. And so they'll just take random people, images off your YouTube channel or whatever. Like Ethan Van Sciver was Captain Picard, and Dale Keown was Worf, and Anna was who was the girl with Riker's girlfriend,
Deanna Troy.
Yeah, Deanna Troy. Yeah.
Here it is.
It up.
Right. But it's really crazy because you're like, you can see the imperfections in it. But yeah, John Malin is number one, and then there's Anna.
And that's Anna. That's Anna right
Anna's
there.
eating the chocolate.
Press play. And
I hope that's synthetic sugar, or we're going to run low on dilithium crystals trying to generate your new wardrobe.
It's fine, Commander.
Wow, that's
Should
weird.
I leave you two alone?
No, you can join us.
Yeah, actually,
I
Anna
never
looks
really
better
liked that
than
shit.
her.
Really?
She looks better than
I
the
never
real
met a
Leanne.
chocolate I didn't like.
And I thought the voices were actually really
that good?
good.
No,
I
I'm
thought
just
maybe you guys
thinking
recorded something.
the Chocolate Con and Evening Expo. It's this whole grand experience. You see, John, for instance, if you love chocolate mousse,
Where's
or
Aaron's bit?
fudge,
I'm coming
on.
there's an
later.
all-you-can-eat buffet.
I think that sounds like Anna. Don't you
Personally-
think that sounds like Anna?
Oh yeah,
I go there.
absolutely.
Alleged to have
There
Here
he
I
is.
am with hair.
He looks like
Captain
Bono.
Ethan Van Sciver is hereby alleged to have been too polite to Klingon Subcommander Antosh, who took great offense and consequently submitted this complaint to the Federation Review Board. Until this matter is resolved, the USS Eat Your Pies will be turned over to Captain Lepresti.
Sorry, guys.
That's really good.
Mandy, you
I
all
know.
right?
Do you have any other
Yeah,
appearances?
I'll be fine.
Oh yeah, I mean all through it. Yeah, keep
You want to
going
talk
here.
about
There's
this?
there's a great scene between me and Anna right here.
Okay.
About my chocolate con ticket?
Yep, they decided to cancel it.
And did they say why?
Apparently, your tastes are not diverse enough for them. Moreover, Anna,
That's weird.
you were seen eating white chocolate chips alongside your other.
That is crazy. It sounds just
chocolates.
like you.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying that my tastes are not diverse because I enjoy white chocolate.
And that does sound like Anna.
Those motherfuckers.
Terrible news. But in the interest of providing a safe space for participate in this, guy
Look at me with hair, man.
Not everyone, spoonhead.
There are always exceptions to the rule.
Did you just call him Spoonhead?
Nevertheless,
Yeah.
I'm sure
You are
Captain
salty,
Van
son.
Sciver is innocent.
You know, when I
Uh,
looked at those
It would
Kardashians
be
or
a
whatever they're
shame
called,
if something were to happen.
I
to
always
anyone.
wondered what the evolutionary
The
purpose
galaxy
of
can
this
be so
neck hole
dangerous.
is.
Maybe.
Oh, I know.
You butt ugly soy latte drinking son of a.
Captain's personal log. The Ferengi was kind enough to rhyme.
Well, if Belle ever does a regular one, a TOS one, she's got to have me in there.
I actually watched this
So
scene.
good news.
While the original complaint was made
Go
by
back
a
a little
woman
bit. This
who-
is funny.
It was. That's all I watched. Is
Right there. There we go.
all right, John. We both know this safe space talk is bullcrap.
You know what?
So give me the good news.
While the original complaint was made by a woman who
Of course it was. That's all I needed to know.
Aaron, yours is the best one.
Oh,
This is actually Ronnie Cox.
yeah.
Captain.
My staff tells me that it was a woman who claimed the offense. I'd like this looked into, if you don't mind, Admiral.
You believe this could be an angry ex-lover and not a Klingon?
Yep.
Yep.
Have it your way. There was a woman he once stood up in Paris. We'll start with her.
Thank you, Admiral.
Look at me. Look at that acting, man. I am
Yeah,
good.
honestly, yours is the best one, the most believable.
How do you like your new?
It's got to be weird for you.
Well,
It was weird
on
because
my
the first thing
planet,
is like what Graham
the way
said
a
is
man
kind of like,
dances-
when did I do this? And then you're like, wait a minute, I didn't do this.
Yeah, it's very strange.
And I had
Yeah.
no heads up that they were doing this. So I just saw this parody and I was like, oh, I'll watch this. And then it was like,
Van
that's
Sciver,
me.
Van Sciver looks like Bono from U2. With or without you.
Oh, I hate that group.
But see, that's the thing. We are now public figures because we do this stuff, and anybody can take our likeness and our voice and do whatever they want. And we're just like,
That's insane.
It's
I mean-
crazy that the voices can be synthesized that way. to say what you want, whatever it is dialogue you're writing for them.
Right. It's the performance. If you watch the whole thing, there's like gaps in the dialogue and stuff.
Guys, in 20 years, actors aren't going to exist.
Well, I know it. How long will it take them to perfect
Hollywood has effectively killed itself.
Oh, well, and you'll also see Jimmy Stewart coming back, and all
John
these other
Wayne movies,
dead actors.
But there's gonna be all kinds of lawsuits, though. The estates of these people aren't going to let it happen.
No, but they're starting to sell off their likenesses now for the money now.
Who is?
Celebrities.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they can't just these companies can't just do it and use their likenesses without some. So it's like the same thing. Nimoy sued because Spock's likeness was everywhere way back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he sued Paramount or whatever and won.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with who else did that?
The Karloff, Lugosi, and the Cheney families all sued for the likenesses too.
And that's what happened with actually that kid Crispin Glover from Back to the Future. He got canned.
Oh, that's right. They did that, right? They put his face or
because he disagreed with the ending of the movie because it made it his character was about money at the end. Because when he became successful because he stood up for himself in the future, it was all about making money. And he said it shouldn't have been about that. It should have been about the love story, between him and I kind of agree with him. But so they kicked him out of the second movie and they tried to use his likeness. He sued them and he won the lawsuit and everything.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And because they superimposed his face in one or two scenes or they used somebody with makeup. I don't remember what it was, but
that dude's a nut.
Yeah.
So if he wins the lawsuit, though, they're still showing the movie. So basically, he's just getting financially compensated for that use, I guess, because he didn't keep him from showing it. Because I've seen.
Well, I don't think in the first one, I don't think he had any claim over the first one. But
it was the second one where he was kind of just a background character, just in a like one or two scenes, but it's definitely there. Yeah, that's what we have to look forward to. They're gonna AI comics. They're gonna AI movies. It's gonna be like Wall-E. We're just gonna be sitting in these chairs like big old fat people, never moving.
Oh yeah.
Never doing anything, and the computers will be doing everything.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting how that all pans out. I mean, I saw a YouTube presentation by some entertainment attorney, some really high-powered guy out in California, and it was talking about the emergence of AI and what's being done right now to protect the writers and the artists and the because of it's all derivative. Everything is used. It already exists and it's gathering it. And if you can prove that it used something of yours, a style, an element, all that kind of stuff, then they have to pay royalties to you. Is what they're shooting for.
Well, it was interesting on Graybeards earlier today. I was this came up a little bit, and Kelsey brought up an interesting point. He said, just think of how soon it'll be before we could just do like a simple pencil drawing and like stick it in and say, okay, do it finished so it looks like my work. And so then all you have to do is like, rough in some stuff and then have the computer finish it to look like you did it. And save you all that.
That sounds awesome.
I know.
You know how much free time I'd have to go fishing?
I know. It's tempting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Until someone goes, hey, can I get that original page? You're like, dang it. And you got to admit, I didn't really do it. The computer did. So, yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of that till he brought that up today, that it's like, we could use AI to do our work for us in our style. So save us all this time.
Make it look like me, but better.
Yeah. Put a little Ron Garney in there on top.
Yeah, throw some Garney in and a little Lopresti.
Yeah. And then everything comes out looking exactly like Jim Lee. because AI is even a fan of Jim Lee.
That's right. Well, if you want it to look cool, you must want it to look like Jim Lee. Oh, well, yeah.
That's funny. Oh man. So let's rate it.
I like this one, despite the little flaws, dumb logic moves in this thing to kind of push the plot along. I'm going to go, I haven't gone over 7.5 yet, and I don't think I'm going to on the time warp ending, though, was cool. I liked, like you'd mentioned earlier, how they kept piling on at the end. It was like, oh, now we've solved it. No, you haven't. It just got worse. I'm gonna go 7.5. I'm gonna keep reserved here and save the big numbers for the episodes I really, really love. But I do like this one. 7.5.
7.5. Ron?
That sounds pretty fair. I might even go, well, the more I think about it, it hadn't occurred to me before, but thinking about it now after so long, it reminds me, what I like about it is what a serious problem they were facing. It wasn't like Man Trap where you had a salt sucking creature. This was something, that infection that was, they could take over the ship, and it was so contained within a ship. There's no escape from it, and then the ship going down. I mean, it reminded me of COVID when everybody was in lockdown.
Yeah,
you couldn't leave your house, you couldn't go to the park, you couldn't go, all this ridiculous sort of, barriers put up in front of everybody. It was like being locked in, and how it drove them mad. I mean, obviously it was the contagion that did it, but the isolation, you really felt the isolation in a ship in murky space over this planet. I mean, it was really effective. And one of the earliest, dilemmas they faced. So I would definitely give it a 7.5, probably an 8 for that reason.
Good solid reviews. I'm a solid 8 on this one. For all those reasons. Just that opening teaser is about the only flaw that really knocks it down.
Sorry, Stippling. My Captain America is nothing like Jim Lee at all.
Right.
It's like Jim Lee light. No, it isn't. It doesn't look anything like Jim Lee.
No, it does not. I loved your Captain America. Very.
I know, that's one of my favorite stuff. Your Cap stuff is great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Graham.
I was just going to say that it was like Jim Lee light, but
well, this episode was like Jim Lee light, or that.
Yeah. So no, I was just saying that this episode is really solid, with the only downside really being that sort of flat opening, where you have to suspend disbelief to get the episode up and running. The guy taking the glove off. And one of the bodies is clearly a department store mannequin that's laying on the ground there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? Oh no, I'm thinking of the thing.
It's no doubt.
I was about to say something. I was like, oh no, wait a minute. That was in Carpenter's The Thing, and I was thinking about. So forget it. That wasn't even in this episode. So.
Yeah. So it's a good solid 8, I think. We'll have to ask Anna next week what she thought about it. We'll get her rating.
She's going through that right now. She's got that virus.
Yeah, she's got the virus. So she's, I wonder what is she like, running around with a sword or?
Yeah, that's right. Look out, Peaches.
Her and Peaches are going mad in their house right now.
Ron, this is not starting herself in a room and singing Irish folk songs.
That's right. What? No ice cream for you tonight.
Who said
No, I was going to say, this has nothing to do with Star Trek, but do you have a series that you worked on that was like your favorite? That was the best experience? Yeah. One of the projects you worked on that you look back and go, that was one I really...
what, my favorite? Each one
maybe most proud of. Well, I'm not saying like who's your favorite character, but if there was
I know what you mean. I mean, they were all different for different reasons. I mean, it's
Well,
interesting.
just for experience, like your favorite experience, like let's say you and the writer really gelled and you had a great editor. Whereas you might have worked on a project that you really killed it on, but you didn't like the writer or you didn't like the editor.
There's so many stories.
Well, we know.
Yeah.
Well, I look at whether or not something I enjoyed is based on my artistic growth. I don't look at it as much through my relationship with the writer or things. I mean, for the most part, I didn't have much of a relationship with any of my writers. I mean, nothing where it's like we talked every day. I probably the closest with Matt Kint, oddly enough, because it didn't start out that way. Started out kind of contentious with him, but we became really good friends. I mean, after going to a couple conventions together and sitting, we talked for hours and hours and hours and hours one night recently, just, and it was never a boring moment when we were talking, so I've enjoyed that. But as far as the other ones, I mean, they're all different, and I just judged them based on my artistic growth, from Cap to Surfer to Hulk it's all different, based on how I was approaching it. So, but I would say artistically speaking, my high point was Daredevil. I was just so into it, and I have a good relationship with Charles Soule for the most part. We don't talk all that often, but we talk here and there. And plus, the villain we created is being used in the Daredevil TV show this fall.
That's nice.
So it's pretty cool. I got invited. I think I told you I got invited to the set, and they had my drawings like in 3D. All of a sudden, it was weird, because they showed his lair. Like Muse, the character's name is Muse, and they showed his lair, and it's lifted right out of what I drew in the book. It's weird.
Nice.
So, there's those gratifying moments. As far as relationships are concerned, there's too many different stories I could tell that are, as you guys know.
We'll save those for a different show.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. How about you, Aaron?
You? Yeah.
Throw the question back to you.
Probably Planet Hulk, just because it was the most challenging. I mean, it was like, if you ever worked on a Roy Thomas script, I did one time, and he would like a barbarian story, and he would just like lift stuff out of Robert E. Howard out of the books and just put them on the page. And, 1,000 troops came down the hill, and you're like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. But there were moments like that in Planet Hulk, where you had this whole, it's basically a Spartacus storyline with, all these troops and the gladiator stuff. And it was just fun. And it was like the best Hulk story ever, because it was like right how you think if you had Hulk, this is what you would do with him, make him a gladiator on this alien world where he can just kind of be himself. And, so it was super challenging, but that was, kind of like we were saying, Ron, it was like, artistically, I was happy with how it came out for the most part. And it challenged me. It wasn't just, I could go to sleep and do this in my sleep. Here's Booster Gold flying over here kind of thing. This was, I really had to think about it.
I will say that the superhero genre, having worked in it so long, it does become way too repetitive with all that kind of stuff. How many shots can you show of a character punching another character? I mean, it's just, it's incessant.
Or set pieces, like I got to the point where I got to draw the Batcave again. Like, Batman sitting at his computer.
Somebody just wrote that I come across like I hate my job. No, I don't. I don't hate it at all. It's just I even just said there's moments where I think fondly of my artistic growth. But the relationships you can't really talk about because it's obviously you can get personal. So I'm not going to go down that road. Again, like that's for another show or something. But there's lots of stories we could all tell because it's filled with personalities and conventions and all kinds of things where you run into people and some are good, some are not so good. But it's like that's life.
Well, that'll be for my next show is called Burning That Bridge. And, that'll be the one we can all come on there and just burn that shit to the ground.
Well, it's funny you would say that. That's actually a pretty good title for a book, because I had always planned on writing a tell-all about the comic industry, because I have so many stories myself. I'm sure you guys do too, but so many things I could say and things I've experienced and stories that could be told that would be a great read. I don't think I'd get away with using people's real names, so I'd have to use different names, but they would all be true stories.
Yeah.
Well, that could be a cool comic that you could do, and you change the name to protect the innocent type of thing.
Well, you're protecting yourself.
Well, that too.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't Chaykin sort of doing that with the Golden Age stuff? That
Chaykin's
telling
doing
the
that with
story of
Kids
Siegel
Read
and
Comic.
Future, but
yeah, and I'm doing it a little bit with that little 8-page story, Kirby Cigar.
Yeah.
There's things in there that I witnessed personally. There are instances of legend that I've heard of, and so it's bits of satire and
after
truth.
we get off, I'll tell you guys a story, a funny story.
Okay,
when we get off,
that sounds good.
We'll just,
I always did my best to kind of not get my nose in too deep in anything. So I have some stories like we all do, but I just kind of did my job, and when I worked at DC, I was tight with Dan DiDio, and if I needed anything, I just went right to Dan and let him deal with all the other crap. And then I would just, whatever came my way, I drew it, and didn't really have a lot of conflict because of that. I was never a big con guy. Even when I went to the cons, I never really hung out with anybody. So that's how I avoided that stuff.
Well, we've rated it. We've discussed the episode. We're hitting the hour mark, and that's what our we try to keep it at. We didn't go off too far off astray, which is good. We managed to keep it all in. Got a little into comics at the end, but we had already covered the episode. So next week, guys, we will be doing Aaron's show, the one that he watched, Charlie X. We'll be up for the landing party next week. Hopefully, we'll have Anna back, and hopefully, we'll all see you guys back here.
Yeah, Charlie X is a good one.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Who wouldn't want to be able to just go like this?
Yeah.
Wish somebody away to the cornfield or whatever.
That's right.
I've looked at many editors like that.
Yeah, really.
So everybody have a great night, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on the landing party. Bye-bye now.